Hi guys, welcome to another video. So I know it's been like 2 weeks since I published another book review, but please bear with me because I just wrapped up All's Well by Mona Awad, and I don't plan to do a book review of that book. It's because it was a little bit confusing for me, and I don't think that I have much material or much thoughts about the book in general. I mean, it's not a bad book. It just got really like boring towards the end, and I totally just lost interest in it. Right now, I'm once again rereading the Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett or Emily Wilde. Or was it Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies? It's written by Heather Fawcett. Emily Wilde's supposed to be the character. So yes, I can definitely finish this book within the week, and I'll be able to film another book review this coming weekend. It's actually a pretty good book. It just took a while to start. Maybe that's why I just put it off for a few weeks. But the story is really picking up pace, and it's starting to be really fast and I'm starting to dive into the characters, the whole point of the book, and everything else. So this is a really good book. I have good hopes for it compared to All's Well. And as you guys know, I did start a new job. I think I mentioned that 2 videos ago, and it's been really good so far. I mean, it's a job. Been working 8 hours a day. And I'm also working on a side project, which is actually my very own story, and I'm so excited about it. I'm actually at 48,000 words. I'm not so sure because I've been trying to stick to a goal of 3,000 words per chapter. Of course, it's going to be edited down. But I really do hope to publish this story one day. So yes, I've been pretty busy. And if you guys have been keeping up with me, not that you need to, you would know that I have published a few South Korea videos for the past 3 weeks. This covers my trip to Seoul last July. I want to publish a video of my trip to Iwa or Ilha and the Han River next, so hopefully that's coming this week as well or next. That all said, if you can tell from this title, this video is going to be how I got a multiple entry visa for Japan and South Korea. Now, I can't somehow tell you guys how I did it without giving you a bit of a background of my travel history. I have been to a few countries in Asia, including Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Japan, and Korea. So you can find all these stamps on my passport. My most recent travels in the last 5 years were my trip to Singapore and Indonesia for work, and my trip to Japan around 4 years ago, and I think that was around 2018. I think that was more, it's actually more than 5 years already. And Korea in 2022, and last month, July 2023. Now, both my Japan and South Korea trip, my first trip to these countries had single entry visas, and in both cases I actually worked with an agency called UHI, or Universal Holidays Incorporated, a travel agency that has offices in Cebu and Manila, and I believe, and no, they're not sponsoring me. I just know somebody who used to work there. So that's my travel history. I wouldn't really call myself well traveled because the pandemic really put a pause on all my travel plans, and I do enjoy occasionally traveling, but because of expenses, of course, I try to control myself as much as possible. Now, I know this definitely played a part, but I never overstayed in any of my trips. For the most part, it also helped that I was employed, and I am still an employee of a company that is registered in the Philippines. And for the record, that's sort of like my criteria when I'm looking for a company to work for. Nothing wrong with working freelance though. It's just my personal choice. I just feel like with companies registered in the Philippines, it's a lot easier to get stuff like your ITR, your government contributions, and in my opinion, there's just a lot more job security when the company is actually registered in the Philippines. I can also proudly say that I did have money saved in the bank, especially since we came out of a pandemic and basically went into hibernation mode at home. Now, I'm obviously not going to disclose how much money I have in the bank, but if I were to give you guys advice on how much money you actually need, let's say you have a 4-day trip to Korea or to Japan, at least have 150,000. I know people will advise you less, but then I think that's the amount that would put my mind at ease whenever I apply for a visa for these countries. So far, what I mentioned is a good travel history since I never overstayed my visa or the allowed number of days in any ASEAN countries. I also had a good amount of money saved in the bank. And finally, I worked for companies that were registered in the Philippines and therefore they were able to easily give me the documents I needed to process my visa. And before the freelancers glare at me, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not saying this to shame you, but then I know that there is a process of securing an ITR on your own when you're a contract worker or when you're taking care of your own taxes. I just don't know what the process is, but there are many sources online on how to do that. And I also have like the basics, of course, like your passport picture and of course yung forms na kailangan i-fill out. So does filing for a visa application with an agency boost your chance of getting an approval? I don't think I have a definite answer for that. For me, it helped personally because I didn't have to go to the embassy myself. It's quite difficult to find like to file for a leave in my line of work, especially since I'm new in my new company. So agencies are very helpful. Syempre, the downside is that you pay a service charge to the agency, which can run from 1,500 pesos to 2,000 pesos roughly. I mean, I think that's around the ballpark figure that I paid for my Japan and Korean visa application. The price actually depends on the visa you're getting and the agency that you're working for, obviously, because sometimes they would have a sale or a promo price. And with an agency kasi, there are professionals that will guide you. They will tell you that your money is not enough, you have a missing requirement, and in the case of Korean visas, you can leave the hassle of scheduling an appointment with the agency with them. I would say it's a great option for anybody that is working a strict 9 to 5 jobs, because these are usually the hours that the agencies or the embassies are open, right? Especially also if you're working like Monday to Friday, at least in my opinion. And knock on wood, I've never been rejected for a visa since paying an agency to assist me. So like fast forward to 2023, I submitted my visa requirements for Japan last March. I specifically applied for multiple entry and again went through the same agency. So it did cost me a lot more than a single entry, obviously. Take note, I had everything already again with me: a good travel behavior or travel history, money in my bank account, and a very secure job that I held for 5 years. Kasi by that time, during that time, I was still employed with my previous company and I had been with them for 5 years na. And fortunately, I got my visa, multiple entry, valid for 5 years, and it was granted after just a few weeks. And then, feeling rich kid si ante mo, I saw a promo for Cebu Pacific and I went and booked a trip to Korea last July. As in, it was really a spur of the moment impulsive decision to purchase those tickets. Not that I regret it at all. And to be honest, I feel like I deserve to travel because I earned it and I have been working hard for it. So I booked that trip and I applied again with UHI. The thing about Korean visas is that you pay for the same amount that even if you're applying for a multiple entry or a single entry. Bale, it's really in the embassy's hand if you are granted a multiple entry or not. Now, if you have been keeping track, by this time I was already granted my Japan multiple entry as well, so I indicated that in my visa application. Fortunately, I was also granted multiple entry by the Korean embassy, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I think overall, as long as you have a secure job, an ITR, money in the bank, never overstayed your visa in the past, and are sincere about going to these countries and are able to fund yourself, then you will really boost your chances of getting that approval. Kaso lang, be realistic. Set your expectations. Maybe a multiple entry visa might not happen for you if you don't have that much money in the bank or if it's your first time applying. But based on my experience, once you get a single entry on your first try, mas maging malaki yung chance mo in securing a multiple entry on your next visit. Now, overall, I found that securing a visa for Japan is a lot easier and faster than Korea. I personally did not encounter any major issues when I was applying for a visa for South Korea. It's just that maybe there's more requirements, so it seems a little bit more meticulous. So Korea and Japan, I'm so happy. I'll make sure to visit both you guys at least once a year if my money allows it. In fact, I've made plans to visit Korea again next year. I hope to go to Busan and maybe to Tongyong, because I want to really explore their coastal cities. For my Japan trip, I was actually initially planning to go to Osaka, but then at the very last minute, I mean, it's not totally last minute because I'm going sometime in November, but it was just this week that Philippine Airlines actually sent me a message that they are not offering flights from Cebu to Kansai. They changed actually the flight tickets that we already purchased from Cebu, Naiya, and then Osaka. There was just a 2 hour interval between the domestic flight and the international one, and I didn't really want to take the risk because, Naiya it's very notorious for its inconvenience, and I didn't want to go through that. So yes, we decided to change our tickets to Cebu directly to Narita Airport. It's not Osaka. I have been to Tokyo before, but that was that was years ago, and it's nice to go back as long as I get to go and visit Japan. That's really the whole point. Osaka might be for some other time. I actually have a lot of plans for Japan, especially since like the visa has a validity of 5 years. Aside from Osaka, which I hope to visit one day, I would love to also go to Hokkaido because I watched the series First Love on Netflix and I really fell in love with it. More on northern Japan because I really want to visit the countryside and I find it very romantic, like areas like Hakodate and Otaru. Those are really like my bet. The more chances I have to sit down and admire the view and the less walking, the better my travel experience is. So, I guess another question on so many Filipinos' minds is that which country do I prefer, Japan or Korea? I think I'll compare the two major cities, Tokyo and Seoul. Tokyo for me is very eccentric. It's very me. I really like the gyaru and kawaii style, and I think Japan has a very individual sense of style compared to Korea. So for fashion and aesthetic, it's really Japan for me. Food is really a big plus for me in Japan as well because I do feel like the dishes in Japan have more variety. You can get sashimi, ramen, and it's making my mouth water just thinking of it. And it's just that the recipes are more broad compared to Korea and South Korea, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Korea kasi if you ever visited before, yung lasa sa food is same lang. I also find Tokyo to be very clean. I wouldn't say safer because there was a drunk guy who followed us on our hotel, which when I went like a few years ago, but in general it's still super safe. And if you're like a family or like if you have young kids, I feel like Tokyo or Japan is like better to visit because mas kid friendly yung mga attractions nila. The one thing that I have to say about Japan though is that it can be quite pricey and the accommodations will really cost you, especially when you book late. Seoul or South Korea, on the other hand, will always have like this special place in my heart because I have been riding the Korean wave since Big Bang became a thing. I am obviously a big fan of EXO, so the culture is very relatable to me. Now, the funny thing is, I actually got back into K-pop because I was watching In the Soup with BTS, and I really found them super charming. And then it was then and there that the algorithm suggested EXO, suggested NCT, and next thing I knew, I was back riding the Korean wave. As for shopping, I really love Korean skincare. I might not have the best skin, but many of their skincare is very gentle and it works well for me. And whenever you're in Seoul, especially when you shop in the Myeongdong or Hongdae area, they sell face mask by bulk and you get the tax-free perks. So yes, definitely go to Korea to shop for skincare. Now, the clothes are not my favorite. I know a lot of people love the Korean style, and I personally think it's really cute too. But then there's like 20 other people in the room wearing similar outfits as the mannequin. So maybe Korean style is just not something I really identify with, because I really love standing out with like my shiny and sparkling outfits and the pinks and the powder blues. In Korea kasi it's mostly just, white and then nude and then really just muted colors. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to ride the train around Seoul as well. But maybe it's because I haven't been to Japan in a long time. Korea has the subway app. You can just use that and Naver, and it's so easy to navigate and travel around the city. But then again, si Japan may Yamanote line, so I think they're just equal. I'm not so sure. Let me come back to you after my trip to Japan pohon. So overall, they're really good countries. They would really depend on what you like. If you're looking for something quirky, for something charming, if you really like anime and cute stuff, I would go to Japan. Especially if you love like that neon lights, neon lit streets, and charming alleyways. In Korea, on the other hand, you will find that it's more chill and it's more laid back. It has a very good drinking culture as well. And of course, it has EXO. I'll always love Korea. Anyway, if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. I'll be back with you guys next week with a book review. I also placed some order for some books in Amazon and I can't wait for that to arrive, and I'll definitely share that with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and check out my South Korea videos. I'll link them down below in the description. Thank you. Bye.